Alright, so the setup is complete and we are ready to draw our starting hands. We start off with Valeros and he draws 4 cards. So let's see what we get here. Valeros' favorite card is a weapon, so we have to have at least one weapon card in our starting hand, and we do have that. We have our longsword here. He has 2 armor cards and the Blessing of the Gods. This is, like I said, probably the most powerful card in the game. This will allow you to add extra dice to your checks, and it will allow you to explore a location again. You only get 1 free exploration per turn, so having these extra blessings actually makes you able to go through the various locations a little bit faster. But this is a decent starting hand for Valeros. He has his weapon and he has some defense in form of armor cards and a blessing which is critical. The way I will be structuring this is the character sheet, this will be the character hand next to the sheet, this will be the deck, and this card pile next to it. I think I'm gonna go with the tripod for now, just to be able to see the entire playing field, and also there is quite a lot of shuffling and quite a lot of handling with different cards here, so I don't think I can hold the camera and move around and just use my left hand for this. And also there are quite a lot of dice that have to be rolled for various checks, so I think I'm going to try out this strategy. So we move on to Kyra here, and she has to draw her starting hand. She has a starting hand of, or she has a hand size of 5, so we draw, let's see, 5 cards here. And I think her favorite card is a blessing. Yeah, you can see that up here. Her favorite card is a blessing, so we have to have a blessing card in our starting hand, otherwise we have to discard and redraw our hand again. We do have a blessing right at the top here, and then she has cure, which is a healing spell, guidance, which adds 2 rolls, some armor, and an ally. Yeah, something I will have to talk about at the end of my playthrough here is the art on these cards. I mean, the spells are wonderful, and then you have stuff like this and this, which I don't know. I don't know if I like it. I think these are distinctly 2 different styles of art, so I don't know why these should be in the same game. You could have made something different with this, or you could have just made Cure be something similar to this art style, but it feels like this is from 2 different games. But okay, this is the starting hand of Kyra. I will be placing this here just like I talked, the hand here, the discard pile down here. Then we move over here to Seoni, and she has a hand size of 6, and her favorite card is a spell. Let's see, we don't have a spell actually. As you can see, we have 3 blessings, 3 allies, so no spell, so we have to discard this. Then we have to draw 6 cards again. Let's see, 5, 6, and this time we do have spells. We have some armor in the form of braces of protection, amulet of life, which is an item. This is not something that you start off with, this is something I've added to her deck. And then she has force missile, which is also something she upgraded to, I think, a burglar ally, a blessing card, and scorching ray, which is a great offensive spell. So yeah, this is a really good hand for her, so we will be keeping this. So this is her starting hand now. And then we take these discarded cards and we shuffle her deck again. And as you can see, her deck size is quite small compared to the other characters, especially compared to Valeros. So if she burns 3 or 4 cards during the first turn, she will draw 4 cards again, and then she only has 5 hit points or something like that left. So she has to be a little bit more careful. The same here, the hand, the discard pile, and the deck itself. And let's see, there is a little bit of a space shortage here, so I think I have to move the... Yeah, this is not gonna be easy keeping track of these, so I think I'm gonna place the discard pile on the side here when I do discard cards. This area here will where the avatars are will actually be the placement for the various locations on this scenario. So we have to start off with placing these characters somewhere on one of these locations, and I will take a look at what the different locations have to offer, and I will place my characters and come back. Okay, so this will be my starting placement for my characters. Having taken a look at these locations, there aren't actually that many blessings or weapons on any of these locations, so Valeros and Kyra are kind of out of luck. They will not be getting that much great loot from these locations. There are also quite dangerous locations here, like for instance the woods has a lot of monsters, and it also contains either the villain or a henchman. So yeah, the woods is fairly dangerous. I think I will wait a while to go to the woods, and then the waterfront is equally dangerous. Also, it doesn't give all that much. So yeah, what I'm gonna do for Valeros is he's gonna go to the farmhouse, because that's the location that has most items and does have a weapon somewhere in the deck. And then for my other two characters, Kyra and Seoni, they will go to the academy, which has 5 spells in it. They both can use spells to great effect, especially Seoni, so they will focus on getting those spells as fast as possible, maybe upgrading or getting some better spells for their hands. You can trade items and spells and such with other characters. And before we start the first turn, we can take a look at this reference sheet here. The one thing that I don't like about this manual, and actually most manuals nowadays, they don't have any sort of reference table or table of contents anywhere in them. And I hate that. Like, how hard is it to just place one table of content? If you want to check combat, go to this page, and so on and so forth. Now you have to go through this entire manual to actually find something that you are wondering about. So yeah, but that's maybe best left for my final thoughts. So let's take a look at this reference sheet. We have the turn overview here. These are the steps that you follow during each character's turn. So first of all, you have advance the blessings deck, which is the clock. Advance the clock 1 step forward, and then you can give a card to another character at the same location. This is optional. You can move to another location. This is also optional. You can explore the top card of the location deck, which is also optional. And you can try to close a location if it doesn't have any cards, which is obviously also optional. And then after you have done all those things, you can actually use powers and such at this point as well, during your turn or during any other character's turn, as long as the powers don't specify a specific use for them. And then you have to reset your hand by discarding any cards if you like, then discard down 2 or draw up to your hand size. So you could just stay put at a location, discard your entire hand, and just redraw new cards if you want to do that. Like I said, your deck is your health pool, so you have to be a little bit careful how many cards you discard. But this could be a good option if you have drawn some terrible cards, like if Valeros has 4 blessings in his hand. That's not going to help him a whole lot. He needs weapons and such. And then you end your turn, and then the next character begins again. So this is fairly simple, and you have reference sheets for different parts of the game, like playing cards, attempting checks and such. We will be taking a look at that later on when we actually come to that part of the game. The turn order is going to be, I should have moved these better, but the turn order is Valeros, Seoni, Kyra. I like to keep Kyra last. In case something bad happens to one of the other characters, you can actually move to that character and try to heal them or something. So yeah, we will be going Valeros, Seoni, Kyra. I might move them around, but I think I'm just gonna keep it the way it is. I know the turn order myself. So we begin with Valeros, and he begins by, this is gonna be a little bit tricky here. He begins by putting the first blessing card, the first turn card in the discard pile. And these blessing cards actually do matter. This is the Blessing of Desna, because if we take a look at the Blessing of the Gods card, this says you may instead treat this card as if it were identical to the top card of the Blessings discard pile. So you could use this Blessing of the Gods to copy the Blessing of Desna. One thing you should be aware of is this recharge clause on these specialized blessings. The recharge says, if the top card of the Blessings discard pile matches this card, recharge this card instead of discarding it. Now you would think, since you are copying this blessing with the Blessing of the Gods, these two will be identical. That is not the case. I actually thought that it was the case, but I checked it on Paizo's homepage, and the game designer specifically said that this effect only is when you are using the abilities, and then when you go to discard, this is still the Blessing of the Gods, so this is not considered to be a Blessing of Desna copy, so you have to discard it. You cannot put this, or you cannot recharge this for free, which is kind of sad, because well, it's both good and sad. It makes the game a little bit harder, and I think it would be kind of overpowered to actually be able to recharge this for free, keeping your health high as you move along. But yeah, this is the first one, and these vary. They add different dice to different checks. So when you place this in the discard pile, just check what the various effects are. So here is discard this card to add 2 dice to a check to recharge a card. So you can add extra dice to when you try to make a recharge check. So this is our first turn. Valeros places this in the discard pile, and then he can give a card to someone, but there's no one at his locations, nor does he want to give any of his cards from his hand here to anyone. So he will not do that, and then he can move. He will not be moving. He doesn't want to move. He wants to explore this farmhouse here. So then we do just that. We explore the farmhouse, and the way you do that is you just take the top card of the deck and you take a look at it. This says Thieves' Tools. So this is an item, and to acquire this item, you have to check here. It says check to acquire dexterity or disable. Disable is a subcategory of dexterity, which will add points to your roll. I think rogues have this disable ability. Since Valeros is a fighter or a warrior, he does not have that. But he does have decent dexterity, since once again he is a warrior. So the difficulty of the check is 4. You have to roll equal to or higher with your dexterity dice to complete this check and acquire these Thieves' Tools. The powers of the Thieves' Tools, or the effect, is reveal this card to add 1 die to your disable check, which is pretty good when you get to barriers and such. And then you can discard this card to defeat a barrier whose highest difficulty to defeat is 11 or lower. If you use one of these powers, which means you play this card, then you can attempt to recharge this card, which means you put it at the bottom of your deck. And to recharge, you have to succeed at a disable 8 check, which Valeros doesn't have, only rogues have this. So this will be sort of a one-time use for him. He can still shuffle it back into his deck. This is not a banishable card, this just discards. So yeah, he has to attempt this. We take a look at his character sheet. We see for dexterity for Valeros, he can roll a d8. So he's decently proficient with the dexterity attribute. So this is sort of like a 50-50 chance to actually acquire these thieves tools. I could add to this check by using cards from Valeros's hand, which would be the Blessing of the Gods, which would add another die. And whenever you add another die, that means that you add the same die that you use for the check. So for instance here, this is a d8 which he will be using, so if you add another die, you just add another d8 to this check. These cards, the Blessing of the Gods, can be used on other characters' turns. So Kyra here, for example, she also has a Blessing of the Gods, so she could play her Blessing of the Gods card to add to the check that Valeros is trying to perform here. There is a limit on one type of card per character per check. So only Valeros can only play one blessing. If he had 2 blessings, he could only play one of them to add to this. But I don't think we will be doing this. The Thieves Tools it's an okay card, but it's not something that I really want. So I will just be attempting this with one single d8, which is his dexterity die. So let's see what happens. And that's a 5. You can see here, that's a 5. So he manages to acquire these Thieves Tools. And what happens then is you just add this to your hand immediately. Okay. Then he can just move on, do some other things if he wants to. Since we drew the longsword and we have some protection here, I think we can safely use this Blessing of the Gods. So I will be doing this, and I will be using this mode here. Discard this card to explore your location. You get 1 free exploration per turn, and then you can use cards like this or allies or such to help you explore. But once again, this counts as playing. So this is the only blessing that well, I don't know if that actually is true. I will have to check that later on, if he can actually play several blessings per turn. I think it's only when you add to checks. So I think he can play several blessings per turn if he doesn't, if they do different things. And doing 2 different explorations counts as different things, I suppose. So he uses this Blessing of the Gods to explore once again. He discards it to the discard pile. And then we once again draw the top card here. See what it is. And this is an ally. It's an acolyte. Let's see here. You have some traits here at the left side. Human elite. These come into play sometimes in the game, but for this check we only have to take a look here. Check to acquire charisma, diplomacy, arcane or divine, and you have to roll a 6 to be able to acquire this card. And the powers of this card is recharge this card to add 1d4 to your arcane or divine check. Recharge this card to add 1d6 to your check to recharge a card with a magic trait. So this is basically a good ally for either Kyra or Seoni. It's probably a better ally for Seoni, but it's still a decent ally card, and I might actually want to get this. So let's see, we have charisma, diplomacy, arcane and divine. Valeros is not a magical caster, so he doesn't have either arcane or divine, but we can take a look at charisma and diplomacy. Diplomacy is a subcategory of charisma, which he does have, and diplomacy is the charisma die plus 2, so that's a d6 plus 2, and we need 6 to be able to acquire this. So this would now be just a d6 roll, and he will have yeah, it will be a 50-50. Well, not 50-50. He actually needs to roll. Yeah, it is a 50-50 chance to get this ally. And since this is a decent ally for the casters, I think that, let's see, either Seoni or Kyra could actually assist him. So let's see, Seoni has one of these blessings. Kyra has one as well. That's a good question, which one of them? Kyra does have this guidance spell as well, which she can use to add 1 to a check. So she could assist with this in case Valeros is unlucky. But if we add a blessing, that would probably be a surefire way to get this ally. The question is, do we really want this ally? And I think it's a decent ally, but I don't think it's worth burning through blessings at this point. So he will just have a go with his diplomacy skill, and then Kyra can assist if it's 1 short. So let's see what happens. And that's a 6, so that's unmodified success. He actually has an 8 because he has +2 in diplomacy, so he acquires this card as well to his hand. He doesn't have any other blessings. He doesn't have any other way to explore. He has already decided not to move, so he cannot move for this turn. And we now get to the end of the turn, which is reset the hand. These two are kind of worthless, so I will be discarding these in any case. He doesn't need those 2 cards. And then we do have some redundancy here with the wooden shield and the chainmail, which pretty much do the same. Yeah, they do the same thing. So I will just be keeping the chainmail, I think, and I will discard the wooden shield as well to filter my hand a bit. And then I will draw up to my hand size, which is 4, so I'll now get 2 new cards, and these are 2, 1 item and 1 weapon. First we have, let's take a look at the Maddock here. Sort of a pickaxe, and this can help you in your non-combat strength checks. This is a basic tool. And then he has this returning throwing axe, which is actually better used by rogues and I think rangers or hunters, but it's okay with him as well. It's pretty much the same level as a longsword, the same power level as a longsword, and I like to have some of these different weapons just to kind of show off different cards from the game. So this is a returning throwing axe. It doesn't return back to your hand, but what you can do is you can reveal this card and roll your dexterity or range die plus 1d8 plus 1 additional bonus, and then you may additionally recharge this card. So instead of discarding it, you can recharge this to add another d6 to your roll. So you would be getting, for Valeros you get 2 d8s, one of them has a +1 on it, and then you get an additional d6. So that's quite a lot of dice for just 1 weapon. So I like this card a lot. all of the weapons have this. If you aren't proficient with weapons, the difficulty of this check is increased by 4. I think all of them. I don't think the mace has it actually. The mace and maybe the dagger. Those are the two weapons. They are kind of weak compared to the other weapons, so they don't have this special clause on them. Valeros has a special ability which says that he can recharge weapons anyway, so this special recharge clause doesn't help him all that much, but it's just some variety for the different weapons. So yeah, this is his hand from now on, and we move on to the next character, which is going to be Seoni. So Seoni will begin by advancing the turn counter. She draws one of these blessings again. This is Blessing of Irori, and this does, let's see, this adds dice to intelligence checks and such. These aren't all that powerful, these extra special skills, but they are kind of nice to have, especially if you have Blessing of the Gods to copy these. It's a bit tricky to keep all of these special cards in your head while playing, so I hope that I don't miss one of these special abilities. Seoni could give something to Kyra now if she wants to, but I don't think she wants to. She doesn't have anything that Kyra wants. She only has arcane spells, and those are only good if you are an arcane caster. The Amulet of Life is better with Seoni than with Kyra, and these other things don't actually do a whole lot. So she will not be giving Kyra a card, she will not move, she wants to stay at the academy. The academy has 5 spells in it, so she has to, or she wants to try and find those spells. Now I did forget to check the special ability of the location here. For the farmhouse, it is just if you would discard an ally, bury it instead. That, I don't know if that means... That's a good question. Does that mean that I have to bury this acolyte now? Maybe it does. It is a form of discard. Alright, so I think I have to do that. That was stupid not checking the location. There are different ways to get rid of cards in this game. First you have the discard, which is just putting it in your discard pile. Then you have the recharge, which is putting it at the bottom of your deck. And then you have bury, which is putting it face down beneath your character sheet. It's not lost, but it's lost for this session, for this scenario. We cannot use that for this scenario now. And then you have the fourth, which is banish, and that means that it's lost forever. It's just returned to the box. So yeah, this is now buried. It's beneath his card here. We cannot give this to any other character during this scenario, but at the end of the scenario, when we reset our decks or when we rebuild our decks, I could actually give this to Seoni if I wanted to. So okay, let's be a little bit more thorough here and check the locations before we make any attempts or any actions. For the academy, it says on your first exploration on a turn, if you encounter anything other than a spell, after the exploration you may explore again for free. So that's good. Seoni will not move, like I said. She will take her first action here, and that is to explore, so she will take the top card here. That is a skeleton horde, obviously. Okay. This is a barrier. It's kind of a summoning spell. It says each character at an open location summons and encounters an ancient skeleton henchman. Banish this card. And that is pretty bad. Let's take a look if we can find this ancient skeleton henchman. Yeah, here we go. Here we have it. This is a henchman card. This clause down here doesn't apply now. If defeated, you may immediately attempt to close this location. This doesn't, you cannot do this. This is just a random encounter. The skeleton is not that dangerous. It's an undead monster. I do have to kind of check. I think undead actually have some special ability, and I don't know if this applies to these summoned skeletons as well. So I will be back shortly. Alright, so I was a little bit unsure, but the manual clearly states that summoned Banes actually get banished and not reshuffled into the location deck. The game makes difference between two types of cards, Banes and boons. Banes are basically monsters and barriers and such that are negative or detrimental, and then you have boons, which are the positive cards like items, weapons, armor and such. But yeah, it clearly says that a summoned Bane does not get reshuffled into the location deck, and these are summoned Banes, so we don't have to actually reshuffle them if we are unsuccessful. This is a kind of a bad card actually, because the undead have some special skills here. For instance, they are immune to mental and poison traits. That's not that big of a deal. But then if your check to defeat the skeleton has the slashing or piercing trait, the difficulty to defeat the skeleton is increased by 3, and that's the case for Valeros, as we will be seeing shortly. And the last one here, if defeated, you may immediately attempt to close this location. This is not something you can use when you have summoned Banes. But okay, let's start off. We have to fight 3 of these guys. Each character has to fight 1 of these, and if there are 2 characters at the same location, like over there, you can actually, since Seoni drew this card, she has to fight 1 of the skeletons over there, but the second one, she could actually fight that one as well. So if you have several characters at a location, the character that made or drew the card has to resolve 1 of the checks, but then you can divide the other checks as you want between the characters at that location. I will not be doing this. Each character will be fighting 1 skeleton each, because Kyra is pretty good versus undead. She gets an extra die to roll when she is facing undead, since she is a cleric. Well, let's start off with Seoni here. So she now has to fight this ancient skeleton, and the check to defeat is 8. So she has to get 8 or more in combat to defeat this ancient skeleton. She does have some different spells in her hand. So let's see, she has the Scorching Ray or the Force Missile. Let's see, the Force Missile is Arcane Die plus 2d4. The Arcane Die for Seoni is her Charisma Die plus 2. As we can see here, Arcane is a subcategory of Charisma. So that's a d12 plus 2 on that roll, and then she will get two extra d4s on that. So that should actually be quite enough to actually defeat this skeleton. Alternatively, we could use this Scorching Ray, but this is a better spell. It adds the Arcane Die plus 2d6, and it adds the fire trait to the roll. Alternatively, we could also discard a card and then use her special ability, which is, for your combat check, you may discard a card to roll your Arcane Die plus 1d6. So this, we could use that as well, and that's probably just as good as this Force Missile attack. And I don't know what to discard. We could discard the Amulet of Life, it's not that important, or the Bracers of Protection. So I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna use, well, yeah, let's discard the Bracers of Protection. So we will be doing that. We'll keep our 2 spells here. So she discards that. She gets her arcane die, which is a, let's see, here it is. It's a D12, and she gets a +2 modifier on that. And then in addition she gets a D6 die. So she has these 2 dice +2 for this roll, and she needs a combined roll of 6 on these to pass this skeleton bane. So let's roll for this, and that's 8 + 2 is 10, so that's perfect. It's enough to defeat this skeleton, so she passes her monster. And then we have Kyra, and unfortunately I don't think Kyra had any weapons. She does have spells, but these are just support spells. She could use this spell to help herself out if the combat goes badly. We could add some extra dice with the blessings as well, but I don't think that's going to be necessary. So let's take a look at Kyra's character sheet here. It says at the bottom here, she has this add, let's see if you can see that. Is it focused? Yeah, now it's focused. Add 1d8 with the magic trait to your check to defeat a bane with the undead trait. This ancient skeleton has the undead trait, and as well, if you do not have a weapon when you are trying to make a combat check, you have to use your strength or melee dice to complete the check. So she will be using her melee dice, which is her strength die +2, and her strength die is a d6. So first of all we have this melee die, which is a d6 +2, and then from her special trait she gets to add a d8 as well to this roll. So we now have a d8 and d6 +2 to try and defeat this monster. It's a little bit risky. She needs a combined roll of 6 on these, so this is a little bit risky, but I think it's fine. I don't think I want to add. She does have this guidance, so she could add another 1 point to her roll if that's necessary. So I think this is fine. I don't want to waste any blessings on these small skeletons. So let's roll for Kyra. And that's a combined roll of 6, +2 is 8, which is just enough to defeat this ancient skeleton. And then we come to the kind of interesting part here, which is Valeros. And like I said, the skeleton has this not immunity, but it's resistant to piercing and slashing. And unfortunately, both his weapons here, both the returning throwing axe and the longsword are slashing weapons. So this will be a little bit a little bit more dangerous check for him. We could use the longsword, which would add our melee die plus a d8, and then we can discard this longsword to add another d6, or that will take us up to 3 dice that we roll. Or we could use this returning throwing axe, which is a dexterity die plus 1d8, which has a +1 modifier, and then we recharge this to add a d6. And I think I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to use the returning throwing axe. So first of all, dexterity die for Valeros, that's a d8 if I remember correctly. Yeah, his dexterity die is a d8. So we add a d8 to our rolling pool, and then it's another d8 which has a modifier of +1, and then we recharge this to add a d6 as well. And this returning throwing axe is now recharged, which means it's placed at the bottom here. This check is more difficult for Valeros. It's a +3 difficulty, so he now has to have 11 to actually be able to do this, which means with his +1 modifier he needs a combined roll of 10. It should be possible. We do still have guidance from Kyra, so she could actually help him out with one. And like I said, I don't actually know if these can be used whenever you want. It doesn't specify anything. It just says discard this card to add 1 to a check. It doesn't say it has to be a specific check, it's just 1 to a check. If you do not have the divine skill, banish this card, but Kyra does have the divine skill, and then she can recharge this with a divine 4 check. So I think this can be used whenever. Alternatively, we could add a blessing from either Kyra or Seoni to add another d8 to this roll, but I think this should be fine. We should be able to roll combined roll of 10 with these 3 dice, and then we do have the guidance in case we do fail by 1 point. So let's take a gamble here and roll these, and that's quite enough. It's 8, 4 and 3, so that's a combined roll of 15 plus +1, 16, so it's well enough for this. So now all 3 skeletons are dealt with and banished, and we do not lose any life points killing these guys. So that was the skeleton horde card, and then we banished this card as well. The Academy has a special rule. It says that during your first exploration, if you do not encounter a spell, you get to explore again for free. So Seoni will be doing this now, so she will explore again for free. Let's see what we find now. That is an ally, Mayor Kendra Deverin. She's a human mayor. Banish this card to examine your location deck and then shuffle it. So that's a decently powerful effect, not that great. I don't actually like these cards that banish after you have used them. But okay, check to acquire, charisma or diplomacy, and you need a 10 to do this. So let's see. Her charisma die is a d12, diplomacy is charisma +2, so that's a d12 +2. So she needs a roll of at least 8 with this d12, and I don't actually think that this card is important enough to waste blessings on. It could be important because you can take a look at what is in the deck and if there are any good cards or if the villain is in the specific deck, but I don't think this actually matters all that much. So I will not be wasting any blessings to do this, I think. Instead I will just gamble and roll this, and we have some chance to actually acquire this card. So we need at least an 8 here. And that's an 8, so that's just enough. So she now acquires Mayor Kendra Deverin. So let's see, that was her free exploration. Then we can use, we can use the Blessing of the Gods. Yeah, the burglar cannot be used to explore again. I think I'm going to use the Blessing of the Gods to explore once more during her turn here, because we have to get through these locations within 30 turns, so you have to make multiple explorations per turn to actually be able to do this. So I will be doing that. I will explore a 3rd time here with Seoni, and that is a Goblin Commando. Okay, it's a Goblin Ranger Elite. Before the encounter, the Goblin deals 1 ranged combat damage to you. Okay, so the way you take damage is you have your hand, and then for every point of damage that you take, you have to you have to discard a card. You could stop this by using cards like Amulet of Life, which is discard this card to reduce damage dealt to you by 3, but I don't think that's necessary. So what I will be doing is I will discard something here, and I think I'm gonna discard, let's see, we have already faced the barrier in this location, so there are no other barriers here, so the disable check from the burglar isn't that important. Yeah, so I will actually discard the burglar. That was my 1 damage taken. And then we have to face the Goblin Commando, which is check to defeat, combat 9. And this time, I don't know if the force missile will be enough. It's the arcane die plus 2 d4. That's a d12 plus 2, and then 2 extra d4s. We need a roll of 9 to be successful, so I think that's a little bit dangerous. Not that dangerous, she should be able to do this, but I think this is kind of the question. Should I be using that, or should I once again take advantage of this discard a card and you get the arcane die plus 1d6. I have to think a little bit about this.